Good morning, Napa Valley. I'm Greg Ramsey here from Back from the Edge. Our guest today is Amos from Joey's Bakery in Miami, Florida. Here to tell us about his wonderful ancient grain breads, sourdough, and other things. We'll tell you about the wonderful health benefits of healthy ancient grain bread. Almost. Tell us about your business.
Well, first of all, glad to be here. So I'll tell for the listeners how this actually is a family business and how it started. We've been open for already over 10 years, and it actually started with my younger brother. He had severe digestive issues, and ironically, we noticed that when he was eating the regular breads or commercial foods, right, he started getting severe attacks. He was getting cramps, shortness of breath, and stomach pains. And that's really funny. We originally, my father actually took him to the hospital, and they didn't know what the problem was. And in fact, they were suggesting, without knowing what the problem was, they're suggesting to prescribe him on very, very, strong medications. And at that point, my father said, you guys don't even know what the problem is, and you're already prescribing very strong medications for a problem which is not diagnosed. So at that point in time, I remember my father came home. This is already going back, I think 13, 14 years ago. And my parents decided, that's it, we're getting rid of all of the processed foods. Throw out everything processed was gone in the trash.
Amen.
And now what was really funny is in today's modern society, everyone believes bread is bad for you. So we originally took my brother, my whole family got off of bread, and we thought gluten-free is the way to go. And so for a period, we started doing a lot of juicing, a lot of, vegetable soups, a lot. And my brother at the time, I think, was 10 years old, very young. And he was always hungry, number one, because, he's a growing kid. He needs something to fill his stomach. And that's when actually we discovered, I was actually introduced to an old hippie from Maine. And he kind of taught me bread is actually healthy for you if you make bread the ancient way, the original way. And if you actually think about it, it makes sense. Bread has been a staple since pretty much the beginning of time. People have lived off of bread. It was actually a staple of life. And unfortunately today, the modern breads are a staple of death. They're very, very unhealthy. They cause a lot of people different health issues. And that's when we really delved into what is proper bread, what is the original bread, and that's exactly what we do here. And I could, in a moment, go into the details of what makes our bread very unique and very healthy and very special.
It's ironic. God fed the Jews manna, bread from heaven, natural food, God's food. Man's digressed so far away.
Correct. That's what happened. It's so we always say this is bad, this is good. Well, it depends, how it's made, how it's grown. That's really what determines if the food is going to be good or bad for you. It's right. It's not a blanket statement. Bread is bad. That's because we don't know what real bread is, unfortunately, in today's time. And I could get into the details of that, in a moment.
Now, how do you find grain without glyphosate?
That's obviously everything starts from the farming, right? Which is why people everything which you can must be farm to table. You have to support the small farmers who are growing clean, organic glyphosate free, pesticide free. This is number one on anything you're going to consume. And that's, my father in his previous life, he was always for the last, not in food, but in other things, was very, very good at sourcing. And we work with a handful of farmers who actually do very, I would say, out of our grain growers, 3 out of 4 actually do biodynamic farming, which is a very, very, it's a difficult way of farming, but extremely clean way of farming. Wow. Where they actually, before they even start farming, they let the land rest for a few years to allow the land to almost detox. And there are many things involved. So obviously nothing artificial. There's no pesticides, glyphosates, obviously no artificial fertilizers. And in addition to that, another big thing, they don't over farm. Another big problem, which is why our foods are lacking nutrients and vitamins, is because they also, not just because the chemicals on the land, but also when you over farm to get obviously more yields, when you over farm, you deplete the soil of its vitamins and minerals.
Right.
So biodynamic is a way of really helping sustain the soil to continue to sustain its vitamins and minerals.
Kind of like what happened with the Dust Bowl before the Depression.
In a way, yes. So that's it. Phase number 1 is you have to know your farmers. So they have to grow very clean, very, very organic. Don't over farm. Number 2 is the grains that we use. We actually use 2 grains in particular called kamut and einkorn, which are both ancient grains. That means these grains have been used for thousands of years. They're not genetically modified. They're not even really hybridized, which means it's like that with all the foods. The longer back you could trace the seed, generally the more compatible it is with people, because people have been consuming it for longer periods of time. In comparison to the modern grains, which have been modified and hybridized so many times, our bodies don't necessarily know how to digest them, how to react with them, which is why so many people develop sensitivities, right, or discomfort from eating those new versions of the new modified grains.
Celiac disease comes to my mind.
Many things. If you look at and it's funny, especially if you look at the digestive issues, celiac, right, where celiac is an allergy to gluten. Right. Such a thing almost didn't exist. It was almost undocumented, and it really, even when it started to become documented, it really took off in I don't remember what year. I think it's 2005, which is really funny, when they actually had a huge increase in glyphosate use in the soil. Also, the amount of celiac skyrocketed percentage-wise in the society.
Yeah.
So it shows you the correlation, obviously, and even before you had, GMOs were really strongly introduced, I believe, mid-90s, 95, 96. You started having that uptick in the IBSs and the Crohn's and the colitis and the celiacs. And then early 2000s, when they started using stronger and heavier glyphosates and pesticides, you started getting, those numbers started rising, dramatically. When I don't know what the percentages are, I haven't looked them up lately, but they're not looking good. More and more people are becoming less tolerable to the modern food, right? They're becoming ultra sensitive because of all these chemicals. So again, going back, so it starts with the farming, and then the grains that you use. You want to use, as much as possible, the ancient grains, because our bodies are going to be more compatible with those grains. That's step number 1 in consuming healthy bread.
Now, is this problem mostly in America or in all the whole world?
This problem, unfortunately, is in the whole world. The chemical companies have gone into agriculture, right? It's become, big agra, as they call it, right? It went, and when that happens, is they're looking at quantity and not quality. Now, in certain things, you need the quantity above the quality, but in food, the society will suffer. You'll have maybe an excess of food, but the food will cause you health problems, right? It used to be, right, when you would have, less food, you had a problem with malnutrition, right? Maybe. Now when you have the excess food, but the food is unhealthy for you, you start getting many other problems. The obvious ones are the blood pressure, the diabetes, and the obesity. That's just an obvious, glaring red alert because of excess of unhealthy foods.
And autoimmune diseases too.
Autoimmune diseases are off the charts, and that, you could associate with so many different, as we talked about, the pesticides, the herbicides, the glyphosates, and we just talked about, that's just on the farming. We're not even talking about on the next step of the bread making, how many chemicals are being used in the modern day bread processing. That we didn't even touch on that yet. We just talked about the farming. When we talk, I could get started on that in a moment as well. When people realize how many chemicals. I mean, I studied bread making, right? I've been doing it for 10, 12 years.
Please tell us more. I want to hear this.
So, I mean, I was blown away. If you were to walk into a wholesale bakery supply store and you look at the shelves, there's no food. It looks like a pharmacy. You see red dye 32, blue dye this. You see bromides, which are different types of dough conditioners, right? These, and each one, you have certain types of bromates, which are, say, illegal in a lot of countries in the EU. Here, they're completely legal. You have dough conditioners. You have the instant yeasts, right, which help the bread rise faster. You have so many things. Shortening, you have so many things going into the bread that, it's no surprise that you see all these different health issues, especially autoimmune,
faster. Now. Then we die.
Exactly. Also, the society has become accustomed to eating with their eyes. So we want colorful, poofy things. That's what we gotten used to this.
We want nice, pretty white bread.
Exactly.
You hear the term, the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead.
Yep. Of course. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And the other baked goods, I mean, it's if you actually look, it's really funny. In all the modern breads, they're using enriched flour, right? They're enriching the flour with vitamins because even the flour they're using is completely depleted of any vitamins and nutrients. So they have to synthetically introduce, right, vitamins back into the flour in order to prevent major outbreaks of diseases like they had in the early 1900s because of the lack of nutrition in the flour. Then
they advertise fortified, hooray for us.
Exactly, fortified, because they ruined it in the first place. Now they have to fortify it synthetically to make up for all that's lacking.
Yeah, exactly. The real story.
Exactly. So going back to the difference between the way we make the bread the original way is, so we don't use commercial flour, right? Everyone is using commercial flour today, and the commercial flour became big during the Industrial Revolution when they said, hey, how did it used to be? You used to have a town mill, right? And used to bring your grains to the town mill. You'd stone grind your grain, right, your flour, and you bring it back home and bake that day. So you're getting fresh flour, the whole grain, right? What happened in the Industrial Revolution was that they said that's too slow. That's not what we want. So they ended up getting rid of all the stone mills, and they brought in high-speed roller mills made out of metal, which grind thousands of pounds of flour per minute, which completely destroy the flour. They completely change the molecular structure of the flour and deplete it of its vitamins and nutrients, and they make it ultra refined. When you have extremely refined flour, what does that do? First of all, that spikes people's sugar when they eat it, right? And then they also stripped the flour of the bran and the wheat germ. If you notice in GNC or Whole Foods, they will sell the wheat germ as a supplement. Where do they get it from? It comes from grains, because in the modern processing of the grain, they strip the flour of the bran and the wheat germ, which contain a lot of enzymes, vitamins, and minerals. So the way we're doing it is we're actually stone milling the old way. We're stone milling our ancient grains, and we're keeping everything intact. You're getting the bran and the wheat germ, and it's fresh. Let's not forget the importance of fresh. The same thing with juicing. When you juice something, you want to juice and drink. The longer you wait, you lose the mineral and vitamin content from within it, and eventually it goes rancid. the same thing applies with flour. When you stone mill it, you want to immediately start baking. And in fact, one of the reasons they remove the wheat germ from the modern commercial flour is because the wheat germ goes rancid if you don't use it within a few days. So they strip the flour of the wheat germ, they sell it separately as a supplement, and then you're left with empty flour, which is finely ground.
Wow. I want to try your bread more and more now.
There we go. Well, we'll set that up. Yeah.
I'm in.
That's it. And then I don't know how much more time we have, but
about 5 minutes, I think.
About 5 minutes. So again, we talked about the farming, the integrity of the grains, the ancient grains. We talked about
kind of regenerative farming.
Regenerative farming is another thing that's already another discussion. But yes, that's also very important. You want the land to be self-sustaining, right? And you want to use the local farm animals, which are supposed to be healthy, as the way to regenerate the land with the fertilizer. And that's also very, very important. That's how you keep the land healthy, and that's how you have healthy produce and grains, is when you sustain that in the real natural way, not using the artificial fertilizers that I'm guessing 95 to 98% of the farmland is using, unfortunately.
Yeah. Even home gardens with organic fertilizer.
Yeah.
It's processed crap.
Yeah. Like I said, people really have to, there is a movement, but it should be even more emphasized. People should really try to support the small farmers who are growing clean, because, if we don't keep them in business, we end up suffering because we won't have access to high quality food. So
I know influencers like Josh Bush is trying so hard.
I think that, but that's already, everybody has to make that conscious decision. I'm going to go and support this, XYZ farmer because he's growing in a very clean manner, and I want that high quality food for my family. People have to make that decision, and everyone adds up, right? Every grain of rice matters, right?
Now, what different breads do you sell?
So I use two different ancient grains, einkorn and kamut. Those are two. The history of those grains are also somewhat interesting, but they've been traced all the way back to even ancient Egypt. They found kamut, let's say, in the catacombs in Egypt, which is very, very interesting. I believe, it's been theorized that this is actually the grain which Joseph fed the world with in Egypt.
Oh,
so
wow.
This is very, very interesting.
The famine.
So it's not proven, but there's a good chance.
I just studied that last week in Bible study.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's quite this. So the history, obviously, if we're eating grains that ancient, we're in a good spot, and thank goodness we actually still have some of the ancient grains left. And einkorn also, they found in ancient Israel, and in I believe they also found it in ancient Egypt. So those are the grains that people want to be consuming because it's going to be more compatible with their digestion. In fact, we've been in business for over 10 years. People with digestive issues, I can't keep count. Probably over 1,000 people with different digestive issues who can't eat regular bread. They tend to do very, very well with our bread.
Are they good for sourdough? I love sourdough bread.
Well, everything we do is sourdough in addition.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it's ancient grain, stone ground sourdough.
You just made my day.
There we go. So that's the next step, is the fermentation. The fermentation is what helps create the probiotic effect in the bread. And unfortunately, the modern breads are using synthetic yeasts to help the bread rise faster, which is detrimental to our health, as opposed to the real fermentation, which creates that probiotic effect, which obviously benefits our gut, which in return benefits the whole body.
What bugs me about store-bought is never sour enough. I love sour.
Well, you like a lot of fermentation. Everybody's you like the real sour.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The bomb.
There we go.
Now, how would my viewers get a hold of you to order bread?
If people are interested in our products, you could give us a call if you have any questions. Our phone number is 954 541 4062. That's 954 541 4062. Or visit our website. It's josephsorganicbakery.com. josephsorganicbakery.com. And we're based in Miami, but we ship nationwide. We ship all over the USA.
Wow, that's amazing. 7-day shipping, 5-day shipping.
Well, we're a little bit backed up. It takes us a few days to process the order. The way it works is when you were ready for your order, we bake fresh. From that fresh loaf, we ship 2-day air by FedEx. So from when we ship, you get it from 2 days. Unless you're in Florida, in that case, you get it the next day. If you're in the same zone as Miami.
I love Florida. I've been there 4 times. I love it.
Yeah, it's warm weather. That's for sure.
Oh,
yes,
my weather. I love warm weather.
Warm weather's the way to go. California's not too bad either.
Long growing seasons.
Yeah, true.
Let's see, what did I ask you? Yeah, someday I'll come tour your project and see it firsthand.
Yeah, for sure. Come on by. Excellent.
That's my dream to travel again. I've flown to Oregon several times since my strokes, but I know if I want to go farther now.
Like I said, come on by. You're excellent.
I love it. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
I've learned so much. I'm sure my viewers have too.
Perfect.
Our podcast will be available on YouTube next week.
Excellent. Perfect.
The world shall see you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Gregory, very much, and have a good day.
Now, so you say your name again.
Amos from
Amos.
Joseph. Yes, my dad is Joseph. My name is Amos.
Almos.
No, like Amos. Amos.
Oh, okay, that's the Bible.
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
Excellent.
Well, listen, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I've learned so much.
That's what we do. People always gotta educate themselves and become, because at the end of the day, it's your own health in your hands. You gotta take your own health by the horns, right? You can't rely on anybody else.
Hey, I learned the hard way. The doctors had me on 16 pills. 16.
Yep.
I'm still dying. I'm now down to 3.
Good.
Against their advice. They got so mad that I dropped pills.
Of course. That's why you have to. Everyone got to be their own doctor. That's you got to educate everyone has to educate themselves, and that's the only way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think some, meanwhile, they're just corrupted by the society too. They don't know the way they're trained.
Unfortunately, you're right. Yep.
How's your brother doing now?
Oh, this is a long time ago. He's doing perfect. He has no health issues whatsoever. He's healthy. He's already, it was 10 years old at the time. That was 13, 14 years ago. He's already 22, 23. That's it. He's doing very well.
Well, your breast may help me regain my health too. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. It's for sure worth a try. Yes.
Well, listen. Anything else our viewers should know?
Like I said, if people are interested, they have a lot of information on the website, josephsorganicbakery.com. You can read up and just educate yourselves and see if that's something you're interested in or not. And that's it. And everyone should be healthy, take care of themselves and their family. That's it.
Love it. Then later we'll talk about, you call or something, we'll talk about how to get some bread.
Excellent.
That'll be
Perfect.
Wonderful. Can't wait to talk to you. Call me anytime.
Excellent. Thank you, Gregory, and have a good day.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So we'll talk again.
Thank you.
We'll
Yes,
do more.
have a
We'll
good
do
day.
more shows as my voice improves.
Perfect.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That was almost from Joseph's Bakery. We presented a lovely show on refined breads and healthy breads. How they restore your health too. So, hope you take this advice. Buy his bread. They sell other things too for your health. Check them out thoroughly. They're good people. Thank you guys so much.